there's just one more triad to have a look at before we can say we've got a really good understanding of triads, and that's a really good thing because once we understand the different flavours of triad that we're likely to find in music, we can have all kinds of fun building lots and lots of different chords based on these different flavours of triad. So we've got our major triad, which sounds bright like this. And then we've got our minor triad, which sounds a little bit darker. And then we've got our diminished triad, which we said sounds a little bit spooky. This last triad is called the Augmented Triad. What do we mean when we say augmented? Well, normally that is when something gets a little bit bigger, like the amount of rain this month has augmented by 20%, means that the amount of rain we've got this month has gone up by 20%. And in music, it's sort of a bit similar. We're taking a chord that we already know, a triad that we already know quite well, and maybe stretching it out a little bit, which is why it's maybe called the Augmented Triad. And just like all the other triads, there are various different ways that we can use to build an augmented triad, and I'm going to show you two of the best ways in this video. So the first way is to take a triad we already know really well, the major triad, and just stretch it out a little bit, and I'll show you how to do that right now. So let's pick a triad that we've come across recently, and that's the E major triad, which is built from an E, a G sharp, and a B. To make this major triad, this E major triad, into an E augmented triad, we take the fifth of the chord, this B up here, and move it up one semitone to a C. And that gives us a very different sounding triad. It's maybe a little bit more mysterious and maybe a bit dreamy. I always think the augmented triad sounds a bit dreamy and a bit cloudy, a bit like you're up in the clouds. So let's have a listen again. Here's the major triad, and here's the augmented triad. And so the way I've got that is I've taken a major triad and I have raised the fifth of the chord, so the fifth of the triad, in this case a B, up one semitone. So let's do it again. Let's choose a different major triad. Let's go for a C sharp major this time. So here's our C sharp, the C sharp, F and G sharp coming together to make a C sharp major triad. And to change this C sharp major triad into a C sharp augmented triad, I'm going to take the G sharp and move it up to an A. And that again gives us this slightly mysterious sounding triad, the C sharp augmented triad. There is of course another way to find an augmented triad, and that is by counting in semitones. And the way we count up to make an augmented triad is counting 4 semitones and then follow that by another 4 semitones. So if you remember, the diminished triad was 3 followed by 3 semitones, up 3 to the E flat, and then up another 3 to the F sharp. So let's do a C augmented triad, and the way we're going to do that is by counting up first 4 semitones, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then another 4, 2, 3, 4, which gives us our C augmented triad containing C, E, and G sharp. So this is a fantastic moment because now you know about each of the 4 different flavours of triads we're likely to find in a huge amount of music. Now, of course, there's lots of things we can do to make these triads more interesting. We can move them around the keyboard, we can use low notes, high notes to make these chords, we can add more notes in to give different flavours and different colours. But always, the building blocks of the foundation of all harmony is building on these basic 4 triads. So just to finish, I'm going to play you a few more augmented triads just so you can really get that sound of that triad in your head.